Hello everyone, Oddsprite here. Welcome into the studio. This is a track-by-track voyage through Are We Alone, a synth-pop ballad for the Lonely Society. In the best traditions of sci-fi, it's also a coded love song. It was a surprise to me too. I read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts. In 2023, there was a lot of talk about statistics related to loneliness and isolation amongst adults. The stat that stuck with me was 1 in 4 adults regularly have feelings of loneliness. Incidentally, at the time, I was also following the progress of the Flat Earther movement with some morbid curiosity. Not from the point of view of believing in it, that's a whole different kind of madness. I recall an interview with a member of one of the Flat Earther groups, and something they said again stuck with me. They joined the group for people to talk to and have something in common with. Not wanting to touch that subject matter with a barge pole in a song, I turned to aliens instead. Way safer and less contentious. So how about a song from the point of view of someone who is desperately looking for extraterrestrial life, having given up on the companionship of humanity? And that's the title. Are we alone? No, we're not alone. Company is everywhere. We only have to reach out and find it. Can you hear something? What's that noise? Oh, no! Turns out it was fine. We're just arriving in Logic. We'll start by looking at the intro of the song, and I'm going to start right down the bottom with a little SFX loop that I made. The intro of the song I wanted to be very atmospheric and have a sense of foreboding. I went through a load of presets to try and find the right kind of sounds and the sound effects. What I actually ended up doing was recording some snares from the drum kit, putting a load of reverb and delay and reversing them and printing it again, and it ended up with this kind of weird sound. This is layered with a number of other sounds before we get into anything too melodic. The next thing is a pad from Massive X, which is a nice drone. To give a little motif to the whole affair, there is a preset from Analog Brass and Winds, which provides a little arpeggio. These elements do reoccur in the bridge in the build-up to the synth solo. The first main melodic track in the song is from Massive X, and it's a nice bell-like sound. I think it's actually an electric piano. However, in the intro, I use it like a bell, and I think it provides a sense of isolation. If we put the whole intro together, the first couple of bars sound like this. The next 3 elements all come in together and build up into the verse. First is a preset from Analog Dreams called Blue Poly, which provides the pad. You can hear there a lovely synth string sound building up to take us into the verse. These synth strings really underpin the emotion of this piece for me. Whereas the electric piano bell gives a sense of isolation, the synth strings provide the emotional core. It's what the character of the piece is yearning for. For the bass, we have a preset from FM8, which is a very bassy pluck sound, like so. You can hear there the bass line builds up some rhythm, again going into the verse. I used a different drum kit for this song in the form of Abbey Road 80s Drummer, and out of the box it has a number of presets that require no alteration whatsoever to be fantastic 80s studio drums. Just listen to this. An idea there of how that kit sounds with the simple drum arrangement that takes place into the verse. The last thing to note for the intro is a riser from Rise and Hit, which takes us through the transition. If we put all of those elements together, here is the intro. Before we go further into the verse and into the chorus, I realised this is the song that I discovered producing with Supercharger. This is a compressor which also provides saturation, and it just makes things sound fat, and that's with a PH. I think in hindsight I may have overused it on this particular song. However, that being said, I make no apologies for the rich, vibrant 80s sound I managed to create as a result of it. Moving into the verse, we establish the main chord progression. You can hear there's two variations that make up the verse, and I wanted this song to have a sense of travel as we go through the story of the lyrics and to lift us into the chorus. The bass plays a pattern that follows the chord progression, and the biggest change of the other elements is an arpeggio which is provided by the electric piano, and that sounds like this. I will say two things about the vocals for this song. The first thing is that I'm rather proud of my performance, considering I made the boneheaded decision to record this whilst I had a cold. Rather than re-record them, I decided to try and edit my way out of things, which is one of two reasons why the vocals in this song are quieter than in some of my other tracks. The other reason was a stylistic choice, in that I wanted the singer to sound like they were almost drowning in the rest of the song. One lonely voice in a world of sound.
No one else knows how loneliness grows deep inside our minds. Feeling out of place, looking up to space, seeking the truth. Sometimes I try to see through the sky, searching for you. My hope one day you'll take me away to where you call home.
There is a lot of reverb on those vocals because I wanted them to sound like they were alone in a cathedral. I'd like to make note of a production mechanic choice, cheat, decision, trick, I'm not sure what to call it. I created a bus through which I put the instruments that were likely to lie within the main vocal range, and these are ducked by the neutron and mask module. What this does is dynamically duck the elements put through it based on a given input, and this is, in this case, side-chained to the vocals. Playing back the verse with the vocals in place, you can see this taking effect. The reason for putting that in place was to allow the vocals to stay at the level they were at and just aid in the clarity of the lyrics. I'd like to cover the topic of loudness and luffs. Producing this song wasn't easy from a loudness point of view. My previous EP, New Horizons, I'd followed the diligent advice of mastering to a certain level of volume, which is in line with the most popular streaming platform. And in hindsight, I think that really hurt the listenability of that EP. It's not as dynamic as it could be. It just seems quiet. And the amount you have to turn up the gain on the average sound system to get enjoyment out of it means that inevitably the next thing you listen to blows your ears off. The releases following that EP, What We Had to Lose and Automaton, I was gradually getting more comfortable with achieving a middle ground between a ridiculous loudness volume and the recommended guidance. In retrospect, during the production of this song, I think I got the loudness right. However, the peak volume is probably a little high at minus 0.1 dB. Somewhere in between there and the recommended level of -1 is probably a safer bet for next time. I think what this served to illustrate to me, however, going through this journey of loudness and quietness, is that do what's right for the song. Don't worry too much about the levels, worry about how it sounds. And if your limiter is completely crushing your mix, it's probably too loud. Transitioning through into the chorus, we move to a simpler chord structure, and then it is simply 4 bars repeated, and 2 new elements are introduced. The first is another pad from Massive X, which layers on top of the Analog Dreams pad. And if you hadn't realised it already, yes, it's got Kilohearts Trance Gate on it. The other new track is a secondary bass, although technically it's primary bass in that it's a lot louder and punchier. However, it serves to highlight the bass that carries over from the verse, and it sounds like this. The two of them together sound like this. And with some drums, it sounds like this. Another pad is added midway through the chorus, which provides some emphasis, and this is provided by analog brass and winds. It turned out this particular pad was incredibly bassy, so I cut the low end off with an EQ, and like everything else in this song, it's also going through supercharger to give it a bit of extra warmth. Altogether, the backing on the chorus sounds like this. You could hear there a few vocal throws that crept into that mix because I didn't realise they weren't muted with the vocal bus. These are trimmed off the end of the chorus line, put through some bit crushing, some EQ, there's also a chorus and some compression. And in isolation, they sound like this.
Are we alone?
In the mix, I wanted them to sound very thin and distant, not only to highlight the fact that if alien life does exist, it's probably quite a long way away from us, and also the fact that the singer, the story that they're going on, is very isolated and alone. Vocals for the chorus are fairly simple.
Are we alone? Are we alone in the vastness of space? Are we alone? Are we alone, the human race? Are we alone?
You can hear at the end there, the reverb mix picks up to lead us into the instrumental part of the chorus. The vocal doubles being achieved, like in previous tracks, by Nektar's harmony module. Between the first chorus and the second verse is a bridge section which contains a synth solo, but it also serves to rebuild after the crescendo of the first chorus. It was quite interesting trying to combine and off-play these two elements, and I ended up finding a preset in Massive X that accomplished this beautifully. I adored the sound in the context of this song. I felt as the cutoff ebbs and flows and the sound comes and goes with the slowly rising scale feeling like it was accomplished something. I felt in many ways like it was musically the start of a friendship. When you first meet a new friend, you start getting to know one another a bit and something gets in the way, or you pull away, or you see something that you don't quite like, but you decide it's worth getting past it to get a closer connection with that person. And that's what this sound was doing for me in the context of this song. The second verse and the second chorus structurally are the same, the main difference being the vocals. I do though want to highlight the outro for this song, as I felt it may be something that people might want to repeat more than once. And just to tempt them into doing that, I ended the song how it started. Just with that single note electric piano playing, fading away into the distance. Other than the vocal bus to aid clarity of the vocals, the mixing of this song was fairly standard. I didn't have to use very many tricks to achieve the sound that I want. One thing coming back to this mix months later, I noticed something quite curious. I haven't panned anything, not a single thing. The entire width of this song seems to be achieved purely through sound selection and reverbs and delays. That was quite an interesting realization on my part. Mastering was taken care of, as usual, by Ozone. Oh, good grief, when you scroll through the channels, you can see just how many have got supercharger on them. Oh, I really went mad with that plugin this time, didn't I? And that's the song. Time to come back down to earth. Thanks for watching. Until next time.